Gude und herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Episode der LinkedIn Lounge. Alles, was du über LinkedIn wissen musst, um mehr Spaß und Erfolg auf dieser Plattform zu haben. Mein Name ist Thomas Herzberger, ich bin Co-Founder von Schaffensgeist und Berater zum Thema Social Selling, Personal Branding und Digital Marketing. Heute habe ich einen ganz besonderen Gast bei mir in der LinkedIn Lounge und das ist Pedro Ferreira. Pedro Ferreira ist eine der Größen hier in der Frankfurter Startup-Szene. Wenn man sich hier in der Region bewegt, dann führt kein Weg dran vorbei und irgendjemand, mit dem du sprichst, kennt Pedro auf jeden Fall, denn er ist ein absoluter Network-Profi. Er ist selber Unternehmer, er hat in mehreren Startups gearbeitet, hat jetzt auch gerade ein neues Startup selber am Start und ist einfach, wie man sagt, sehr, sehr umtriebig hier in der Szene. Wir werden jetzt das erste Mal diese Folge auf Englisch machen. Pedro spricht natürlich Deutsch, kommt aber aus Portugal und ist einfach ein bisschen einfacher. Und deswegen, liebe Zuhörer, seht's mir nach, wenn wir jetzt mal auf Englisch umswitchen. So, Pedro, hi.
Hi, thank you, Thomas, for the invitation, and hi, everyone.
So great that you can make it. I'm really looking forward to talking to you. Thanks for taking the time. So, as I mentioned, you are like the networking person. You're actually the person I know who is, really could take on their card probably has the position or the title of networking. What do you exactly do? How do you network? Why do you do this?
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment in a way.
It's meant as a compliment, definitely.
Yeah. It's something that, it came a bit naturally. It's part of my personality. But I do believe that networking is key for people to really progress, support others to progress. And I see it as part of my daily routine as a personal life as well. But on the professional side, I really think it's a must to do on a daily basis.
Yeah. And you're using LinkedIn specifically to not only, but LinkedIn very much to connect with people and to connect people with each other. You have close to 30,000 followers, I think, by now. How did you do this? How did you get 30,000 followers?
Okay, so to reply to your question, indeed, LinkedIn is a tool that I use on a daily basis. It's a tool that I really see as very beneficial. And that I keep on investing time and also sometimes resources in order to progress. I started using LinkedIn, I'm not going to say right in the beginning, but because I think they are more than 15 years, but I've been using for the past 12 years for sure. And when you do it really on a regular basis, is normal to reach the limit. So I think we were discussing this some days ago. If you calculate an average of adding 10 people per day, really you reach the limit. And that's what I did. So now it's very challenging for me to manage the account. I also mentioned to you, and it's something that I always mention to people, don't focus on quantity, but really on quality.
Right.
So what I try to do now is really to improve the quality. So in order to accept new LinkedIn connections, I need to disconnect from past connections.
Right.
And it's also, an exercise that I do on a daily basis to try to see which connections are lost in a way, which ones are more engaged, in order to either try to refresh contacts or really to close past stories. So I would say that it's an exercise that it's also beneficial for me to really keep an ongoing powerful network.
Yeah. So you've mentioned that you're connected with 10 people per day. Is that right? More or less?
Yeah, it's a good number.
Yeah, okay. So how did you choose those people? Who did you know to connect to, and how did you do this?
Okay, so what I try to do, and I try to do it at least on a weekly basis, or sometimes when I don't have the time, at least on a monthly basis, is really to have like a strategical view, an ecosystem canvas where I try to identify which are the stakeholders that I envision myself establishing relations with or working with in the upcoming weeks or months. And I try to identify if I'm yet connected with them or not. When I'm not, what I try to do is to really connect with those stakeholders, with people that work within those companies.
Right.
And clearly, when I do it, I try to not just send the random cold connection requests, but really to tell them why I'm establishing the connection and saying, okay, I'm working now on this project, right, which for this reason X or Y makes sense to work with you or to have synergies with you, or I've seen that you work with company X that we also work with.
Right.
So I try to kind of map those connections, right, and to see, okay, this is the direction that myself or my projects are going, and these are the potential stakeholders that we should be talking to. So it's kind of identify and then action plan to establish the connection. Obviously, LinkedIn doesn't allow us to really spam people and add a lot of connections. Yes. So I try to filter down sometimes to 2 or 3 people under that company. Right. And then when they accept, then I also have the leverage to add more people. And that's what I try to do, really to start with 2 or 3 people in that company and then to enlarge, because people see that you are already connected to someone from their network.
Okay. So you have to find your target group. And I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, you have to find like your first target group, so people you actually really want to be connected to, but also your secondary target group, you know, who you can like connect you with the primary target group. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then you did every connection request, you added an individual notification based on how you could help them, how you leverage your network and leverage them, and shared projects and people you both know. Is that correct?
Exactly. Also, something that I also like to do to show this link or to show that the potential is there, sometimes is also to bring content into the message, so that I say, okay, for example, look at this article that I wrote, right, or that someone wrote about you, so that you see that there is really a potential link, right, into, or to show that I've done the homework of doing the research, and it's just not the random spammy clickbait to generate links between people.
Right. So you also always want to give some kind of value.
Yes, exactly. Because, well, something that I also have to highlight is that daily I receive a lot of requests. And yeah, clearly there are a lot of people trying just to establish connections or to increase the numbers. Right. And that, in my case, I think that provides no value, or people that are trying to sell me things without explaining me basically why. These are the kind of people that sometimes even I need to report or to block, because people that are wanting to meet me in Stockholm right now, well, I'm not based in Stockholm. Why are you inviting me for a coffee in your office? Right. If it was a virtual coffee, maybe, but there are some people that are not really doing their job on targeting and filtering and seeing, okay, this person is on my target group. Well, I think that for me is a no-go.
Yeah, that's true. That there are far too many people who just have this like I don't know whether it's a template or just, some plain text which should drop like for everybody. And then it's obvious that you're not special. And they're not really just interested in you, but just on the quantity of their network and the followers. So with like 30,000 people in your network, how do you make sure that you can actually have this overview and that you are able to connect people within your network to each other? Because for me, it would be, I would assume that's kind of, hard to do with so many people.
Well, fortunately, there are some tools already inside LinkedIn that allow us to filter. Mm-hmm. So I use it a lot. So to filter either by industry or by location or by the company itself. And this allows me to do those connections. Mm-hmm. But also, I think it's a lot of human factor. So it also depends a lot on you because you need to really have the AI inside you that makes the connection. So let me think. For example, this morning I was working in a project that is aiming to connect Latin people or people from Latin America mm-hmm. to Germany.
Right.
So I was trying really before using LinkedIn to remember to whom did I met in my life that could be inside this group.
Right.
So I think you always need to do a mix between the online tool and the offline tools in order to get a good result.
Right. And I think that's a very good point. And that's what you're doing actually, because LinkedIn is, of course, an important tool for you, but you're also like omnipresent, especially here in the mm-hmm. Frankfurt area and the Rhine-Main region, because you're basically on every event which is out there. And I like the way how you connect digital with offline. And how do you also mentioned that? Yes, sorry?
Before Corona, it was much easier, I must say. But yeah, I'm looking forward now for what can come after the post-pandemic so that we can really establish connections in an hybrid mode. But yes, I think it's a good mixture of both. It's the success key of networking. Yeah. So really to do as well some homework that you can do it digitally to research those stakeholders. And then if you are able to meet them offline, I think the probability of you getting a good connections is much, much higher. But yeah, we adapted to the pandemic world and we are doing a lot online, which is also good because opens doors to multiple or to scale it faster. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope that we will be back for the offline world as well.
But you've also tried to use the events feature on LinkedIn, right? What was your experience like?
Well, for me, it worked very well because previously I was using a lot other tools like Facebook or Eventbrite, but I noticed that the performance of the network or the database of people really decreased. So people started to be less engaged. While on LinkedIn, I saw that people started to be much more responsive. And when they say that they are joining, the show rate, at least in my experience, is higher. LinkedIn developed tools that enabled us to really invite and filter the people that we are inviting. So as you said, I have 30,000 people. When I want to do an event about Frankfurt, I will not invite 30,000 people. Facebook allows us to invite 1,000 per week. And what I try to do is really to filter and see, okay, this topic is interesting for people or stakeholders in this domain, in this geography. And then I use the features to really nail down and filter and invite the 1,000, but really the good 1,000 in order for them to accept, to show interest, and to attend. And then LinkedIn allows us to really notify those users twice, I believe, per month. And that's what I also do. So the week of the event or the week previously to notify the attendees, and the day before the event, in order for them to be aware that the event is about to happen.
Right. So to make sure that the people actually show up, so give them a short reminder before the actual event.
And I think that as well, LinkedIn allows us to generate or to increase the engagement or the interest by providing the content, providing stories, so that people really feel, okay, I should be on that event, I should make the time.
Right.
Because something that we also saw is that, people are, the attention span decreased. There is this so-called Zoom fatigue, that people really, now they spend 10 hours a day looking into a monitor. So here comes another invite to another event.
Right.
Sadly, to get people attention, it's very hard nowadays. But there are some ways to do it. And I believe that some of the tips that we are discussing here allows us to be closer to the people, to the people that we want to.
And I think on the one hand side, you're absolutely right that people are kind of fatigued by Zoom and looking at each other's faces on the monitor on a daily basis. On the other hand, I see a huge demand for personal exchange, especially not even business-wise, but just hanging out with people, talking about their daily struggles and problems and ideas they're having. And whenever you give them a reason to, not a reason, but the opportunity to do so, either it's online or hopefully in the near future in the real life, it provides a lot of value just to give this kind of stage where people can connect. Do you, Pedro, do anything with the people you have invited to your events or who have been there afterwards? Do you have some kind of funnel?
So yes, I think that, as you rightly mentioned, people's lives changed a lot, and as well the way that you interact with your network. So one of the things that I noticed is that our personal life and professional life got slightly mixed. So I did a lot of events where sometimes, or conference, as a speaker or as a guest, where sometimes one of my kids would just jump on my lap and interact with the people. So I think that mixture also brought value because, I'm a father of 4. It's hard to jungle with everything. And sometimes I met people that were exactly like me and that they were completely understanding my situation. And that at some point we even connected outside, offline, and we met with kids. So it's kind of overlapping, but in a good way, because then you could meet these stakeholders, these people in a different way. And it's an icebreaker that sometimes can open different doors. I think that's super, super good. So just to answer to your question, yes, the way that we follow up with the people that we connect is completely different. So I think it created room for different types of follow-ups and meetings. As said, maybe we spend a lot of time working with Zoom and other technologies, video conferences. As you say, making the room for the one-on-one, so personal exchange is very important. So sometimes I attended conferences where there were thousands of people. I was not really paying attention to all of the speeches and keynotes, but I was really trying to find out and filter and see, okay, from the attendees, who are the people that I really should focus to talk to? And identifying those key people and being transparent and saying, okay, well, it's nice that we are here on this conference. I see that you are interested about this topic. Unfortunately, I'm very busy right now. Would it be possible to follow up next week and have really a one-on-one meeting where we can discuss the topic that they are discussing here today, but in a more closed atmosphere, personal way. So that's what I've been trying to do. And I think not only me, because I've received similar approaches where people try to go from a big conference to a follow-up meeting in the upcoming days.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea to think about the events or conferences. Your target group is actually, also people in your target group. Target group always sounds so anonymous, but real people you would like to connect with. So I'll call them target group. And which conference, which events are they attending, either online or offline, and just go to these events, not only to see the influencers and listen to the ideas within their market, within the industry, but also with a heavy focus on connecting with people and providing value, even with your own services or products or with your network you're bringing along. I think that's a great idea.
Yes. For example, I can be transparent. I'm working in as a founder, I'm working in an industry, XR, so immersive experiences and immersive realities.
Let's mention the name of your company, Rico. You're the founder of Experience Plus.
Yes, exactly.
What do you do?
Well, a lot of things. but just to tell you, for example, there are a lot of conferences about XR. I'm brand new in the industry, so we have been working on this for the past year and a half. But I have a lot of role models that I want to connect with, big gurus of the industry, and they are all in these very expensive trade shows. And when I look at those conferences, I really say, okay, I really would like to connect with them. But am I willing to pay €1,000 for a virtual event? So normally what I try to do is really to go to those webpages to see what they are talking about. And then I try to interact with them, but really saying, okay, I'm not joining the event because I don't afford to pay €1,000, but I find the topic really nice. Yeah. And I really like the article that you wrote here. By the way, are you working in the German market? Do you need intro to the stakeholders in Germany? Right. Would you envision working with us on product X? So that's how I try to make the connections. So taking the opportunity or the excuse that I know what this person is working, and then try to show the links to my project. Right. Sometimes it works on the first email, sometimes it doesn't. So sometimes it works on LinkedIn, sometimes it doesn't. So what I try to do is really an omni-channel approach where sometimes I say, okay, maybe on LinkedIn it doesn't work. Can I send you an email? If the person doesn't reply, maybe I try to tag one of the articles on Twitter and then hashtag the person and say, hey, I've been trying to talk to you. Is this the best channel?
Do you like Twitter?
I don't know. So sometimes, you need to test and see. Well, there are some boundaries and limits, so don't try to upset people. But I think you should challenge and try to, don't be afraid if someone is bigger than you or more famous, because sometimes, in the end, they are just humans like us.
So people, right?
Sometimes that's the way that they will pay attention to you.
So I like the idea not only to live in this LinkedIn bubble, but also to connect with these people on other channels and go personal as quickly as you can and get them on the phone or meet them online. So Pedro, you just mentioned a couple of times, you mentioned that you would like to connect. You show people, you tell people about your projects. I'm sure somewhere along the way there is some kind of money involved, because you have mentioned sales once. But for some reason, you probably doing this networking thing not only because you would like to and you like people, but also to get some value out of it in any form of way. So what is your goal with all of this? Okay,
so first of all, I think value, money is one type of value that you can create. I think networking can generate money, but there are many other things, many other values or added values that you generate when you invest the time on networking.
Mm.
So I must confess that the funnel, I think we also mentioned funnel, is very long. And I believe that you generate a lot of value for people, not always for you. But that's part of the community approach. So I love communities. I love to bring value to communities. And I also believe that when you build a community, the community will pay back in some way. It doesn't always need to be money. Obviously, money, it's the end goal. But there are many other indirect ways that will create value for you, your brand, your projects on the long run. So my biggest advice is really to look it into a community perspective, and community always pays back. So
I very much like this approach, because it just, it also frees you from this pressure in order to sell something. Instead, if you want just to connect with people, build up a community, I think it's much more easier because it's kind of part of our nature as human beings to have this tribe and to strengthen connections with each other.
Exactly. And part of it, I would say, don't be afraid of including in this community people that you think that are your competitors. Because in the end, with competitors, in the end, you can also bring synergies. And today they are competitors. In the future, they can buy your company, or you can buy them as well. So I really think that people should really see the big picture, and don't be afraid of people that are doing the same thing that you are doing, because you can create value to them today. In the future, they can create value to you. So I'm really open-minded about working with different kind of stakeholders, even people that are doing exactly the same as I do.
Yeah, that's a very nice, very good approach. What is the best thing which has happened to you in like the last 10 years you've been using LinkedIn as a networking platform? Can you give us a story, an example?
Well, so many things, so many nice things happened to me, through LinkedIn. I think some months ago I was doing like flashbacks, and indeed when I came to Germany, so 10 years ago, I think since then most of the job offers that I got came through LinkedIn.
Really?
So, or from personal networks. So yes, I did apply to some positions on the normal job process, but indeed, if not all, most of the jobs or the companies that I worked to came through networking and personal recommendations or LinkedIn cold approach sometimes. Right. So one of the startups that I worked with, indeed, I personally wrote the CEO, and he invited me for a lunch. We came up and I started working with them. Another startup, for example, I met...
Sorry, what did you write in this message to the CEO?
Well...
Hey, I'm a nice guy, I'm smart, I'd like to work for you. Give me food.
No, I think there is also a very famous phrase that says, if you need money, ask for advice, or if you need advice, ask for money, something like this. So it's the same thing. Every time I receive a message saying, urgently, I need a job, I think that's not the way that you should approach people, because people then feel intimidated. You should never really send this kind of message on LinkedIn. I received a lot, especially from foreigners trying to come to Germany. Right. I do understand. I feel the pain even myself, but most of the times I don't feel that this will, be beneficial for them. I really think the opposite. When you ask for advice, when you bring already some tips to the game, and you say, okay, I've read about this company. Great job that you are doing here in this point. What is your structure or your plans for the future? Do you envision this and that? What about the next step or this trend? Are you already incorporating in your company? Mm-hmm. I think bringing intel into the game, showing the interest and saying, really, well, why don't you do that? Sometimes you don't even need to be the one doing it. You can connect other people, saying, okay, have you seen this person doing this? Why are you not doing this in your company? Maybe it's a good idea. And people like it. And sometimes they may say, well, why don't you come join us and support us doing that?
So you challenge them, basically.
Exactly.
That's a good idea. I would guess some are annoyed, like, I don't have the time or the money for it, and now go away. But especially for people who are like, keen on development, on innovation, on new ideas, they probably are open for this and kind of like it. They have this little bit kinky approach.
Yes. So in my case, I do it really on a daily basis. So when I read the news and I spot really very nice case studies, stories, successful moves, what I try to do is really to see, okay, who in my network would benefit from reading this.
Right.
And then I try to forward them, not that these will provide me any leverage, but really to tell them, well, what do you think about this?
Right.
Do you agree with what they are writing here? Have you ever done this in your company? Right. This provides value to them, to my network, and also to me, because then I receive the feedback from another person that either validates what I just read or will give me another side of the coin. And I think there is where I create value also, not only for the other person, but also for me, because then I generate insights, data, learnings that I can use as well as a person, or in the future, if I want to work with that technology or with that framework. For example, I remember once there was some very trendy influencer movement, and I've never used the influencer marketing. So I spotted some news about influence marketing, and I sent this to some CEOs or founders that were using influencer marketing as a strategy. And I asked them, is this working for your company? Do you think I should be using this for my projects? Right. And then that's when you kind of get the value out of the time that you invest, because they provide you feedback. They will say, well, we tried this, it doesn't work, forget Pedro, don't go in that direction. Right. Or they say, well, that's really interesting, we should try to do it. Can you connect us to someone who is doing this? Yeah. And that's when I start to create the dots for them. And also, eventually in the future, I know, okay, this agency did very great with this startup that I connected them with. Either I recommend to other people or I can use it myself in my future projects. Yeah. And that's the value of networking.
Nice. That's very smart. So you do content creation, you do inspiration, and then you connect the dots with each other by providing value. That's excellent advice, Pedro. Thank you so much for your ideas, for your experience. It was great talking to you, as always. And dear listeners, if you want to connect with Pedro, of course, he has still some space in his network, not much though. So make sure that you have a quite good contact note if you want to add him. Pedro Ferreira, he is the founder of Experience Plus right here in Frankfurt. He's one of the network enthusiast, technology lover, passionate entrepreneur, and you should really make sure to connect with them if you want to get his insights and the value of his network as well. Pedro, thanks a lot for our discussion. Ja, und das war die Folge mit Pedro Ferreira hier in der LinkedIn Lounge. Vielen Dank fürs Zuhören. Ich freue mich schon aufs nächste Mal. Bleib uns gewogen, folge unserem Kanal, damit du keine Folge mehr verpasst. Vielen Dank und bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss.